We've got with us Dr. Brzezinski, of course, is former national security advisor. He's also the co-author of the book America and the World, Conversations on the Future of American Foreign Policy. Do you know, Dr. Brzezinski, let's just break the ice this way. Do you know that your daughter has been seen on the Acela train from New York to Washington wearing a sweatshirt that says stunningly superficial?
Was that sort of confessional?
I think, well, wait a second. I never thought about it. Did you buy that T-shirt for her? That'd be confessional if I wore it. We've been talking about the disappearance of the middle class, something you've been concerned about, but you also talk about the possibility of class conflict.
I've been sort of worrying about it because, look, we're going to have millions and millions of unemployed, people really facing dire straits. And we're going to be having that for some period of time before things hopefully improve. And at the same time, there is this public awareness of this extraordinary wealth that was transferred to a few individuals at levels without historical precedent in America. People who made billions of dollars, millions of dollars in a short period of time. I sort of collected some figures on this. I mean, they're really kind of staggering. And you sort of say to yourself, what's going to happen in this society when these people are without jobs, when their families hurt, when they lose their homes and so forth? We have the government trying to repair the banking system, to bail the housing out. What about the rich class? Where is it? What is it doing? It sort of struck me that in 1907, when we had a massive banking crisis, when banks were beginning to collapse, there were going to be riots on the streets. Some financiers, led by J.P. Morgan, got together. He locked them in his library at one point. He wouldn't let them out till 4:45 a.m. until they all kicked in and gave some money to stabilize the banks. There was no Federal Reserve System at the time. Where is the moneyed class today? Why aren't they doing something? The people who made billions, millions. I'm sort of thinking of Paulson, of Rubin. Why don't they get together? And why don't they organize a national solidarity fund in which they call upon all those who made these extraordinary amounts of money to kick some back in to National Solidarity Fund?
What about a National Mortification Act, where they take someone who is hired by John Thane, who was the former head of Merrill until he became the former head of Goldman until he became head of Merrill. Last summer, he hires a guy from Merrill to come over, from Goldman to come over to Merrill with him. The guy comes to work, I think, August 1st, and then leaves December 31st when Bank of America finally acquires Merrill Lynch. And the guy got like a $35 million bonus for 5 months. Dylan calls it clawback. What about mortification?
Yeah, but you know,
give the money back.
Yeah, before the mortification, it would be better if they did it on their own. Now, there could be public pressure. There could be lists of people published who have made money over the last X number of years. I have a few figures. For example, Merrill Lynch, in the year 2000, gave to 149 individuals the total of $3 million each. Their total bonuses that year amounted to $3.6 billion. In 2006, 400 individuals received income of $263 million each. I mean, just think of these figures. Under Bush,
under the top 400 richest men in the United States, men or women, I think the last numbers before this break, you had to have net worth of $1.4 billion to get on the list.
Well, there you are. You know, under Bush, in the 8 years of Bush, bonuses on Wall Street amounted to $180 billion, 180. In the 8 preceding years of Clinton, 105. That's almost $300 billion of transfer of wealth. Suppose a portion of that went to a National Solidarity Fund voluntarily. If we had prominent people like Rubin, Paulson organizing this, maybe we ought to mortify them a little bit, but why don't they do it to prevent class conflict in society?
Jeffrey Sachs was on our show 6 months ago, and he said that if you look at the bonuses that were paid out in 2007 to people that worked on Wall Street, those bonuses accounted for more money than aid we gave to the entire continent of Africa.
Yeah.
Over $30
absolutely.
billion.
Absolutely.
In bonuses.
Yeah. Big
Not salaries, and bonuses at the end of the year, Pat.
Difference is, yeah, you know, the difference is between the J.P. Morgan walking into the New York Stock Exchange and the robber barons and those guys. They saw themselves as Americans. They saw themselves as the men responsible for building up the greatest country on earth. A lot of these folks you're talking about, these finance guys, they see themselves as globalists, well, citizens of the world.
Look, I agree with you, but if they are going to do something, there are two ways of doing it, and maybe the two ways ought to be combined. A voluntary initiative on the part of those who are responsible, who have status, who have a sense of social consciousness. Let them try. And at the same time, as you said very rightly, a little bit of public mortification. Publish lists. Give names. What did they earn? Are they contributing anything?
Dr. Brzezinski, though, do you think that there is a larger issue here, and that all of the stuff about bonuses and all of this stuff is a symptom of a larger disease? And the larger disease is that over the last 15 to 20 years in this country, as a culture, too many people have confused wealth with wisdom, thinking that just because you accrue enormous wealth, you must be the smartest person on the block. Maybe you're the greediest person on the block, but not the smartest person on the block. And an ancillary factor there is that we glorify Ivy League educations or Stanford educations, and we've lost the mission of this country. Tradesmen, plumbers, carpenters, honorable professions that we demean now just because, oh, they don't make a whole lot of money. Kids get out of college, they want to go to Wall Street to make money. They don't want to build houses or bridges or the country.
You're absolutely right. Look, in our society, given our system, we cannot preclude the goal of making money as a legitimate objective. But the point is to wed it somehow with a sense of social responsibility. Don't have a situation in which there is an economic crisis, only the government steps in, taxes the taxpayers in order to save the banking system and maybe to save the system as a whole. So we ought to have some social pressure led by responsible people who made a lot of money, taking the lead in an effort to give some of it back. Now, we transferred $300 billion to a small number of people over 16 years. That's a tremendous shift in the distribution of wealth in our society. I believe there are some statistics that we and the Chinese today have the greatest disparity between the wealthiest and the poorest. That's a terrible testimonial to America.
What is the impact of that shift? We're seeing that impact play out today in Detroit, with General Motors possibly filing for bankruptcy.
That's right.
Literally, the middle of America rotting economically. People with no hope, Pat, of achieving even...
His point is well taken. I think since 1974, as I mentioned, real wages, you know, adjusted for inflation of working people have stayed about here. At the same time, you've seen these folks go from $10 million to $100 million to billions of dollars. So the disparity, it's like a third world country or something like that.
Exactly.
You know, you get like Mexico, a couple of guys get billions, and everybody else is middle income or below.
And if we don't get some sort of a voluntary national solidarity fund, at some point there will be such political pressure that Congress will start getting into the act. There's going to be growing conflict between the classes. And if people are unemployed and really hurting, hell, there could be even riots.
Let's go from